This is WFYI News Now. It's March 28th, and I'm Abriana Herron. On today's show, the archaeological excavation of part of the city's first public cemetery, a proposal that would allow school districts to voluntarily shift control of their facilities and transportation to independent local boards. And a transitional housing complex for veterans in Indianapolis is set to reopen this summer.
We're really excited to add more units. That is to the core of our mission to end veteran homelessness and also to increase the pantry size.
Those stories coming up, but first. A public library branch on the west side of Indianapolis will reopen this weekend after being closed for over a year. The Indianapolis Public Library's Pike branch closed in late 2023 for extensive remodeling. Gregory A. Hill, CEO of NDPL, says the project ensures every community in Indianapolis has access to quality library services.
We believe every neighborhood in Indianapolis deserves a library that is modern, inviting, and ready to serve.
The branch includes several upgrades, including a gaming space and a podcast recording studio. Michael Jenkins, Pike Library branch manager, says it's the first NDPL branch with this type of studio.
Having it as an option just for anybody in the community who's ever considered audio recording is there for you, and it's free.
Jenkins hopes to expand the podcast space to include other forms of audio recording, like music production, in the future. A reopening celebration will be at the branch this Saturday at 10 a.m. The more than $2.2 million project was funded through city bonds. An archaeological excavation of a small part of the city's first public cemetery is complete along the eastern bank of the White River. WFYI's Jill Sheridan reports this will allow for work on the Henry Street Bridge to move forward.
The downtown bridge will connect neighborhoods and expand the cultural trail. Construction started last year, but some structural work was delayed for the archaeological excavation of Greenlawn Cemetery. The city contracted for the dig with archaeological company Stantec and plans to honor the stories of those buried there. The earliest burials were in the 1820s. Archaeologists have identified more than 470 grave shafts and unearthed numerous artifacts. That site makes up a small section of the larger 20-acre area where the cemetery was. Most of that space was cleared for a new Indy 11 stadium that may not be built. Excavation is about 20% complete on the smaller city-owned site and will continue headed away from the river. I'm Jill Sheridan.
A Republican proposal would allow school districts to voluntarily shift control of their facilities and transportation to independent local boards. WFYI's Rachel Fredette reports on the departure from an earlier plan that would have forced Indianapolis Public Schools and other districts to take part in the programs.
State lawmakers want to find ways school districts can consolidate or share resources with other districts or charter schools. Representative Bob Baining wanted to force districts to do this. He says the programs are now voluntary.
We're looking at ways to try to improve efficiency and improve customer service, so to speak.
Baining's proposal revives language from a bill that died earlier in session. A school district's facilities and transportation would be overseen by appointed boards with broad authority. They could eventually earn the ability to levy taxes. Baining says some school districts have already expressed interest in the pilot programs. The Education Department previously shared its hope that any program starts as a pilot. The proposal is expected to be voted on next week. I'm Rachel Fredette.
And for our final story today. A transitional housing complex for veterans in Indianapolis is set to reopen this summer. The construction of the Manchester apartment complex began in late 2024 after a fire heavily damaged the property and displaced nearly 50 veterans. Helping Veterans and Families, or HVAF, which manages the building, announced the northern corridor of the complex will open to veterans in May or June. The southern portion, which experienced the most damage, is expected to take 2 years for complete remediation. Emmy Hildebrand is the CEO of HVAF. She says enhancements at the complex will bolster support and services for local veterans.
We're really excited to add more units. That is to the core of our mission to end veteran homelessness and also to increase the pantry size.
Hildebrand says grants, insurance, and community donations made the expansion possible.
That's really the lesson for us and other providers, is that we don't work and live in a vacuum, and there are other resources that we need to collaborate with to make sure that we're providing the best care possible.
Since the fire, all 48 veterans affected have found transitional or permanent housing. In 2024, HVAF helped more than 1,300 local veterans. And that's all for today's episode of WFYI News Now. Our podcast is produced by Drew Daudelin and Zach Bundy, with support from the news team at WFYI and public media journalists across the state. Our news director is Sarah Neal-Estes. Kendall Antron produced our music, and I'm your host, Abriana Herron. If you liked today's episode, remember to subscribe and share, and follow WFYI on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and YouTube to check in on our newsroom throughout the day. Thanks for listening. We'll be back on Monday.